War bonds during World War II tremendously contributed to the united economic, morale, and patriotic circumstances in the United States. War bonds were initially meant to provide economic aid for an American economy not ready to go to war, and their role in supplying money for military efforts was crucial. Because these bonds didn't yield a high return for citizens, they became exceedingly significant in a morale justification to help the military defeat the Nazis and Japanese. Above all else, these bonds created a united patriotism through the citizens that incomparably contributed to a more united states and freedom of democracy against the villainous totalitarian nations in Europe and Asia. The small town of Wayland, Massachusetts was among the many towns that were expected to join into this cooperative effort. A local newspaper, the Jeep, played a big part in the war bond drive through promoting the patriotic effort. The Jeep would advertise the donations of war bonds from Wayland citizens to soldiers and highly advocate for more gracious war bonds. The Jeep helped unite Wayland into an economic, morale, and patriotic supporter of the war.
The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor thrust the United States into war. The United States had already sympathized with the Allies and had already mightily favored the British in financial war efforts like cash and carry. Savings bonds were already in place to help citizens loan money to the U.S. government for a small return in interest. Just one day after the Japanese bombing on Pearl Harbor, the United States declared war on Japan and eventually renamed the bonds as war bonds. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt brought the first war bond in 1941 to begin the economic, morale, and patriotic advancement in World War II.
With jobs more plentiful and wages higher, slight sacrifice here and there, the omission of a few luxuries, all of these will swell the coffers of the federal treasury. The outward and visible tokens of partnership through sacrifice will be the possession of these defense bonds and defense saving stamps, which are at the same time a guarantee of our future security. Fellow Americans, I ask you to demonstrate again your faith in America by joining me in investing in the new defense savings bonds and stamps. And I know that you will help.
The United States spent more than $300 billion fighting the Axis powers and supplying the Allies through the war, which is equal to over $400 trillion today. The government desperately needed money to help fund such a large-scale war, so they turned to their citizens by offering thousands of war bonds. The motto, "Every little bit helps," constantly recurred as Americans donated every little extra cent to the war effort. The U.S. even created war stamps for as low as 10 cents to enable every American's ability to contribute to the war.
Everywhere they went, Americans were encouraged to help support the war effort by purchasing war bonds. Posters like Uncle Sam or a soldier on the battlefield implored people to do their part. Famous artists like Norman Rockwell helped create this war publicity. This poster targeted an audience in a patriotic and morale view to save certain rights that were in jeopardy if the Nazis were to gain more power. Celebrities like Frank Sinatra traveled the country, putting on live shows or radio programs promoting war bond sales.
Children did their part too, purchasing 25-cent war stamps to paste in their war bond booklets. Tactics were created by artists by comparing the money spent in bonds or stamps to the supplies in war, so people would be more likely to do their part. This poster shows that a 25-cent war stamp can buy 12 bullets. Schools held their own war bond drives, and students would bring in spare change to compete with other schools in an effort to raise the most money. The Schools at War campaign was promoted for children to help pay for airplanes in the war. Even Superman, Bugs Bunny, and other cartoon characters were used in spirit to help younger citizens join in this collective effort. This Bugs Bunny commercial was used to attract citizens into buying bonds.
Tall man with the high hat will be coming down your way. Get your savings out when you hear him shout, "Any bonds today?" Come on and get 'em, folks. Come on, skip right up and get 'em. Any bonds today? Bonds of freedom, that's what I'm selling. Any bonds today? Scrape up the most you can. Here comes the freedom man, asking you to buy your share of freedom today. Many stamps today. Give kitties. We'll be blessed. We all invest in the USA. Sammy! My Uncle Sammy! Here comes the freedom man. Can't make tomorrow's plan. Not unless you buy a share of freedom today. Any stamps, any bond today.
Citizens received only a 2.9% return on bonds, but thousands continued to buy them to join in on the morale and patriotic-centered movement in an effort to unite the country into a united nation. People throughout the country felt that they were doing their job on the home front as they bought war bonds. Wayland acted like many other small towns that were expected to participate in the national effort of supporting the war. A constituent newspaper, the Jeep, adopted the role of encouraging war efforts. What Frank Sinatra and Norman Rockwell did on the national stage, the Jeep did locally by encouraging war efforts and starting a large war bond drive that united the small town of Wayland. Just as schools around the nation were involved in war bond drives through the Schools at War campaign, constituent high schoolers joined the effort as well. One bond donated by the students was given in memory of a soldier who died in a Japanese prison. The citizens in Wayland responded well to the Jeep's determined efforts of collecting the war bonds to donate to soldiers.
The Jeep thanks the townspeople in this 1945 issue in celebration of the 50th bond donated by Wayland citizens. May we continue this spirit of goodwill and appreciation. How can we of the Jeep staff ever tell our townspeople how much they are doing to help our servicemen and women in the armed forces? The Jeep giving a bond when there was a surplus in the Treasury has created a friendly and willing spirit among our folks, and see what they have done. The day after the war ended on May 9, 1945, Reed Gerald, a returning Wayland soldier, wrote a letter thanking the Jeep for their inspirational writing, as well as their uplifting war bond giveaways.
The originator and staff of the Jeep are to be congratulated for their superb work in putting out the best servicemen's newspaper of the war. I am sure that every man and woman in the service from Constituent will agree with me when I say that the Jeep is the greatest morale booster ever. Thank you, Constituent. Sincerely, Reed Gerald.
Enlisted soldier Malcolm Tenney writes to the Jeep describing his positive experience of winning a war bond, and explains that after winning it he felt closer to his friends and family.
Dear Jeep, many thanks for sending me this grand little paper. It means so much to me and to all the boys in the service. Each time it is due, I can hardly wait to read what my friends and buddies are doing back home. It seems the one link that erases that many miles and brings me right back to the old town itself and all I left behind. I would not want to be without it. Thank you again. Sincerely, Malcolm Tenney.
In conclusion, Americans became united through the economic, morale, and patriotic efforts of war bond drives. The strategies imposed by major media and local media created a trend of fighting on the home front back at home. From famous Norman Rockwell paintings advertising the purchases of bonds, to a small-town newspaper with a population just over 3,000 people, producing a resolute effort to win the war. Citizens from Wayland joined the nation in accomplishing a morale battle to help guide soldiers to victory, and a patriotic victory in a united pro-war nation, and finally helped guide the U.S. economy into a primed war-ready economy. War bonds created a valuable nationalistic union that helped win the war at home.
Start spreading the news.